Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Health Wealth podcast. We've got another great episode coming for you this week. I've got another guest with me today. So we're joined by Anthea McCourtie, who is also a transformational coach. We're going to speak to her today. So, Anthea, first of all, welcome to the show, and how are you today?
Thank you. I'm good. I'm really good, actually. I'm not normally an evening person, so yeah, you can tell I'm excited to be here because I'm not flagging yet.
That's good. It's good to hear. That's good to hear. So I think if first of all, if you give us a bit of background on yourself, what it is you do, and then we can maybe hear a little bit about your journey that got you there.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, I'm a transformation coach, which is a term that I gave myself because it was just easier to encapsulate the range of what I do. So, I'm a registered nutritional therapist, I'm a personal trainer, and a yoga instructor. And so, I specialize in working with people to help them unleash their confidence, rediscover how good they're meant to feel, kind of using all three of those modalities plus lifestyle management as well. So I specialize in the transformation side of things. And so I thought that was easier to sum up as describing myself as a transformation coach. So
Absolutely.
so, my journey into that, I didn't kind of just decide I wanted to be a transformation coach. I Growing up, I was always very active as a kid. And then, like most of us, you get to your teens and then, other stuff becomes way more important, way more exciting. But also in my teens, and I was a teen in the 90s when skinny was everything. You couldn't open a magazine without, seeing someone totally emaciated. And so I became really obsessed with this idea of dieting. When you hit puberty, your body changes, and especially as a woman, you start to gain weight. And so, yeah, I was just like obsessed with calorie counting. I knew, like in the most geekiest way, I knew the calorie content of most foods, and so it really distorted my approach to health and food. And yeah, I think so many of us kind of grew up in that environment and it's really difficult to unlearn. But eventually, I left school. I went off to do an economics degree, didn't really do anything with it, had like, a couple of depression episodes in uni. In my early 20s, I started in sales and, I partied hard. I would say I worked hard, but I really didn't. I was more in the party hard
Yeah.
side of things. So, I was living off caffeine. I was drinking wine at lunch because we all did, and, more wine in the evenings. The trolley lady in our building would come round. And so it's like bacon butties at 11 o'clock, and just this really, really unhealthy, unsustainable lifestyle. And yeah, it was one of these extreme TV shows. It was You Are What You Eat, and they got a typical family eating junk and had them, in these ultra sort of over the top health foods, and saw their transformation. And I got really interested in that. And I thought, actually, I'd love to learn about this kind of properly, because I changed how I ate and totally transformed my health. I lost loads of weight, which was a massive bonus for me because that was what I'd been obsessed with for so long. But actually, I kind of wanted to learn more, and so that prompted me to do a degree in nutritional therapy, and that just completely opened my eyes, completely changed my approach to nutrition. And surprise, surprise, it's not all about the numbers. And it's actually just, yeah, it turned things to a really positive approach for me, actually learning what different foods do in the body, rather than just constantly thinking about, okay, what do I need to avoid? What can I take out? What can I restrict? Which is just a miserable way of being. So yeah, I started doing that. And then Further on down the line, I got really into martial arts. I was doing Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, MMA. And, I did that as a form of exercise, but actually it just kind of took over my life in a skills learning way, a social way. And then, as a wonderful byproduct, I got the fittest that I'd ever been. I think a couple of years into it, when I was in my early 30s, like my resting heart rate was like 41, 42. Like I just got so fit. But it just really changed my perspective on, like, actually just do what you love, do what's fun, and then you'll get these lovely health benefits. Like I really started focusing more on the mental side. Then I got, sorry, this is a really long story as to how I got to where I am.
It's good. We like the detail. We like
um
it.
But yeah, I actually injured my shoulder. I had a torn anterior labrum, and the consultant said that I would need surgery on it. And that meant 9 months off the mat, which was kind of disastrous for me. But it also coincided with a tax rebate. And so I was like, right, this is my chance. I'm going to do my personal training qualification. It just kind of makes sense because I'd always wanted to expand on the nutritional therapy. So yeah, I did that. And then I never quite got back to properly going back to martial arts. I think sometimes when you have an injury, it just changes things in like how you perceive your body. You get very wary about getting injured again. And so it almost makes it less safe because you're holding your body differently. So I sort of stopped that around the time that I went off to do a yoga teacher training course. I'd love to say that I was really yogic and I just wanted to expand my knowledge, but the truth of it is I wanted a holiday and I couldn't justify taking one. A friend of mine in the office was like, "Oh, I did this amazing yoga Thai massage course." And I was like, "Great." He was like, "That was out in Goa." And I was like, "Okay." I was like, "Actually, hold on. Why don't I just do a yoga course out there?" So I went. Don't get me wrong, it was hard work. It was intensive 4 weeks with lunchtimes at the beach, obviously. So it's not like it was a struggle. But yeah, I did that. And then I was like, I came back. I'd been building the business part-time, working part-time in an office in the NHS. I was like, no, I just need to go fully into it. And then just over time, I've sort of niched, I've found my specialty area, which is all about building that confidence, incorporating weight loss and energy boosting and hormone balance, etc., into it. But that's the part that really gets me alive, just that whole empowerment aspect and taking a really positive approach to our health.
Yeah, that is awesome. Yeah, that is important. You said the mindset and that taking that, I was thinking it earlier when you said about the transformational coach was how you decided to describe it, and you had all these different
Mhm.
areas. Because that's true, because the real health, there's so many different areas. It's not one thing.
Yeah.
We like to oversimplify it, don't we, down to one thing.
Yes. Yeah. Do you know what? That's something that I get asked so much. It's that sort of dinner party conversation. Oh, what's the one thing that we should be eating?
Yeah.
What's the one supplement? And it's like, well, it doesn't work like that because we're all different, but we're all at different stages in our health journey. We've all got different needs. And, yes, we're all human, but, you know, the way that I work with one client is very different to how I might work with a next door neighbor, and so it's nice if we can simplify things, but sometimes you do have to look at the bigger, more complex picture and then simplify it from that. But yeah, it just makes sense to take a holistic approach.
Yeah. Are you struggling to lose weight? Have you tried all of the fad diets with no success? This is the one reason that you keep failing gaining the weight back. You're doing a diet instead of a lifestyle. Nobody keeps up a diet long term. Eventually it becomes too much and you go back to your old eating ways and the weight comes back on. This is where our 12-week fat loss plan is completely different. This is not a diet. It's a 12-week journey of learning how to implement simple, healthy and sustainable eating habits that allow you to maintain your fat loss for the long term. Diets are based on the principle of eat less, move more, which are the two main ingredients of increasing hunger. And in the long term, hunger will always win and your diet will fail. We have a very different approach. There is zero calorie counting involved. You do not need to restrict the amount of food you eat. You need to eat the right foods. The reason our method does not fail is because we're not starving your body. We give the body everything it needs to be satiated, to be healthy, and to increase our metabolic rate, which all contributes to easy, consistent weight loss. Sound too good to be true? Fortunately, we have plenty of testimonials on our website from clients who've already experienced how well this works. What do you get with the 12-week fat loss plan? First off, you get an introductory call with an expert health coach. You get personalized nutrition and exercise plans, and you get 4 weekly check-in calls to keep you on track. 24/7 support on WhatsApp, and most of all, you get the knowledge to put in place these new habits and lifestyle that are going to improve your health and weight for the rest of your life. Get signed up today by clicking the link below or in the description. Yeah, I think so. There's so many things that affect it so much, and it's almost a holistic approach, but still just doing the basics, isn't it? It's not that overcomplicated. It's just, get, like you said about supplements, people always, I want to find this and that. Just get your basics in order first. Get sleeping right, get eating a bit better, and go from there.
Yeah, I think we're so keen to find out the next hack or the next sexy thing that we should be doing. And, don't get me wrong, I love a good hack, and I love finding, some amazing research that says that, doing this can change everything. But that's not gonna, it's either gonna have like a minimal or no effect, or it's just not going to give you as much effect as if it would if you'd got the basics right. So I think sometimes we can kind of misperceive, I'll think of a better word for that, what we're actually currently doing. So I have so many clients coming to me and they're like, okay, I need some help because, yeah, my diet's healthy, but actually once they do their food diary before they see me and we go through it, there's actually a lot of improvement that we can make. And I think sometimes we get so attached to this idea of a healthy diet being just the absence of junk food, when actually there's so much scope within that area, to get your portions right, to get, your proportions of different food groups. So many of my clients aren't eating nearly enough vegetables as they need to be eating. They're overcompensating with their starchy carbs, etc., which is impacting their health goals. And actually, when we spend time going through that, it can have a massive difference in their health goals. And, I have a client who I've worked with recently, and literally we just started giving her a bedtime, cut out alcohol during the week, started dialing in the blood sugar balance in her meals. Into week 2, she was like so excited. She said to me, my energy is just through the roof. And it was just really simple changes. We hadn't even gone on to the supplements. We hadn't even gone to any kind of testing or anything fancy. It was just really dialing in the basics, which can have a huge impact.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. That's one of the things that always makes me laugh, actually, is not at least 90% of the time that someone will come to me and I'll speak to them and I'll ask them, what kind of diet do you eat? 90% of the time they'll say, yeah, I eat healthy every single time. Everyone thinks they eat healthy. And then you say, okay, yeah, but what do you actually eat? And then they start going through it. And like you said, it's like, okay, yeah, maybe not this and that. But I mean, I suppose that is down to the amount of, the misinformation that's out there,
Oh my
plus the
goodness.
poor nutritional guidelines that are given out. And
Yeah.
it's hard for people to maneuver, isn't it? When they're not experts in it, they just follow what they're given, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, it's so confusing. When I did my nutritional therapy degree, that was like 2006 I started that. So, of course, information has changed, and I'm always not only is it a requirement in my associations, but I always want to keep on top of the sort of more recent studies, etc. But there was so much unlearning that I had to do back then. And it's still a struggle, even though most of us know by now that, you know, we don't need to cut all the fat out from our diet. You know, all of this stuff. For some people, it still really is a struggle when they're used to this whole, you know, calorie counting, fat is bad. You know, there's a lot of people, you know, my clients who will have muesli or cereal with their skim milk for breakfast, might have a little glass of orange juice, chopped banana in it. And it's like, back in the 80s, 90s, that would have been considered brilliant. But when you're actually explaining about actually that's just a whole load of carbs and a lot of quite simplified sugars and just sugar itself. And I'm like, okay, well, that's actually setting you up for a really crappy day in terms of your energy and everything else. And yeah, the education just isn't there on a basic level. So it can be a tricky one. I get the occasional client that's like, yeah, my diet's shit. I eat loads of crap. And I love it because it's like, okay, brilliant. Because the
Yeah,
only way that we can go is up from
that's
here.
it. At least they're honest.
But sometimes, yeah, it is food can be such an emotive subject as well. So, you know, when somebody says my diet's pretty healthy, I don't want to just shit all over that. I want them to, you know, I want to appreciate that, you know, they're making the effort, but actually there's tweaks that we can make to that. And it's just a question of, yeah, of kind of learning what's going to work for them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's got to be personalized, hasn't it? Everything.
Yeah.
As you said, people are at different stages, different things will work for different people, and it's
Mm.
finding it. And as you said, doing it gradually. Like for some people, like you could just remove bread and it could literally change their life. You
Yeah.
know, it could be just one thing, can't it? And then I feel like once they start to see things working, then they begin to trust the process a bit more.
Yes. Yeah. And I think also sometimes it can be interesting to gauge what people's perceptions are. So I was working with one of my clients this lunchtime, and you know, we're just coming into week 4, so about 3.5 weeks in, and you know, I asked her how she was feeling overall, and she was like, "Yeah, I'm losing some weight, but you know, I'm losing it in the bigger picture." And I said, "Well, what weight have you lost?" She said, "Oh, about 3 or 4 kilos." I'm like, "That's brilliant for what we're doing. We don't want to be going faster than that." And so you know, the last thing that we want is for someone to get despondent, but actually it's really important to understand that things are a process. And so wherever you're starting from, you know, if you want it to be sustainable, then it needs to be a gradual process. But I was just smiling at her. I was like, 3 to 4 kilos is brilliant for what you're doing. It's like,
That's
just,
it.
you know, keep up the good work. We're doing well. Let's keep going. But yeah, I think as well in social media, it puts a picture. We're very used to seeing transformation photos of people without really knowing what's properly gone on behind the scenes. We might see somebody's food intake, we might see how they're working out, but actually we don't get to see like the mindset changes, and all the other lifestyle factors that have gone into those changes. So I think that's something that's worth bearing in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't see everything that's gone into it. You just see the before and after photo, and
Mm,
you don't even know how their journey went. You see the start and the end. You don't know what happened in the middle. They could have been up and
yeah.
down a bit and whatever, you know. And like you said, sustainable is the key thing. You know that there was what was the show in America, The Biggest Loser or something. And
Yes,
the majority
yeah.
of them people regained all of their weight.
Yes.
You know,
Well,
it wasn't
they gain more
sustainable.
back
Mm,
because they just kind of, yeah, it was too quick. Um, yeah,
yeah, it was just too much.
mm,
Yeah.
I have a real thing, like I'm a competitive person. I love a bit of competition, but weight loss as a competition, I really, really, really struggle with. And I think, yeah, I think when you're just looking at the figures, like it's great when somebody says, I want to lose X amount of weight. Brilliant. So we've got a goal. But I have to peel back the layers. You know, what does that mean to you? Because you could stand on the scale now, it could say that number, but would anything have changed? So I think yeah, I think it's really important that we don't just focus on that number or that after picture, because in that after picture, somebody could be really miserable.
Yeah.
When I first changed my diet after watching this, this program on TV, and I sort of bought the book, and I went really extreme. And this was, yeah, 2005. I was doing this, so the shops didn't have, like, if you asked someone in the supermarket for quinoa, they'd look at you like you were talking another language. Um, so, I'm sure loads of it was just that I couldn't find what I needed to eat most of the
Yeah.
time. And I lost a lot of weight, but yeah, I lost the weight. I went to, like, the slimmest I'd ever been, to the point where people were asking if I was okay. But I also remember at the time, well, I remember after, because I didn't really pick up at the time, I was experiencing another bout of depression, which just sort of manifested itself in a different way. But so I kind of knew, actually, it's not all about the weight loss. Like, I need nutrition that's going to support me mentally as well, which again was another prompt for me to then go and do this nutritional therapy degree. But yeah, I think sometimes we get so caught up in weight that we lose sight of actually what's behind it, what's behind those pictures. And that's really important.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And there's so much that goes into weight. I mean, weight's only one metric, but muscle weighs more than fat, as we know. So
Mm,
if you're losing fat and putting muscle on, the scale could not move, but in a picture, you might look like a different person.
yes,
A-
yeah.
And of course, to overall health, like you were just talking about there with your mental health, health is everything.
Yeah,
So, we have to take that into account. And unfortunately, like we said before, the health industry just has this obsession with weight. And
yeah,
health is about so much more than that. So, yeah, trying to get people to understand that and have a more holistic approach is definitely important to it all, I think.
yeah. I mean, I've been in conversations when somebody started to ask me more about what I do and if I could help them with a particular thing, and someone else is saying, "Oh, no, you don't need it. You're skinny," or whatever. And it's like, oh my goodness, that's not the
Yeah.
measure of health. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's a strange view we have in our
yeah, like you
society.
say, we're still kind of stuck in that, as you say, like back in
Mm,
the 90s or whatever, and that was the thing, and we're still stuck in it. That stuff that's in the past, like the low fat and all of this as
yeah,
well. We kind of struggle to move on from these things. They're ingrained in our minds, and so we just go about our day believing those things to be true, and we have to.
yeah,
You used the correct word earlier, unlearn.
yeah,
Everyone who's gone on this kind of journey like we have, you have to start with unlearning what you've
yeah.
learned.
And it's hard. It's
Mm.
really difficult. I have women, it's mainly women who I work with, but they come to me and they're so confused by food. That literally, I've had a lady say to me, when I'm asking what food she likes, she says, "I just don't know anymore." And that, as somebody who loves food, that's just devastating to
Yeah.
hear, because we're lucky enough that we have this abundance of food. Even if we're not well off, we all have access to food. Um, Pretty much, I'm making a very broad statement. But most of us have access to food, and so we can enjoy it. And I think, if we're lucky enough, we can not only buy food that we enjoy, but buy food that tastes that is healthy for us and tastes good and we enjoy. So yeah, I don't think that you have to sacrifice one for the other.
No, absolutely not. Food should be enjoyed. I enjoy my food more now than I did when I ate, what would be considered a normal standard diet.
Yeah,
And I think with any whatever type of diet you're eating or whatever type of food, I think anything for people who say, "Oh, that's boring, that's got no taste," whatever. That my opinion on that is that you can't cook. Like if any
yeah.
food can be made to be nice, I think.
Yeah, I mean, all it takes is, using different spice combinations, herbs. There are just so many flavors out there. Even, stir fry sauces. When I explain to people, you don't need to buy these sugary sauces. You can buy the frozen pre-chopped stuff. You can garlic, ginger, chilies, little soy sauce, loads of flavor, some herbs in there. Um, but yeah, I think, a lot of people don't have confidence. And I think, yeah, I think cooking is quite a big skill that's kind of lost
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, I think you're completely right, and that is true. Convenience has killed us, hasn't it? We
Yeah.
we want everything now. We're busy. I just want to eat. I don't want to cook. I want to order it, have it to my door, or heat up a
Yes.
frozen meal. It's sad,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah. And it's frustrating because, clients will ask me about meal delivery services, and sometimes we can work around it, but even the majority of those don't have the proportions that I
Mm.
would want for my clients. There's never enough veg in there. Um, and they're quite sort of heavy on the starchy carbs, and yeah, it's quite frustrating because there doesn't need to be a lot of time spent in the kitchen, but I think it's, getting that confidence is crucial for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think so. Like you say, you can cook a decent meal in 15, 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes, doesn't have to be long. And I feel
Yeah.
I feel it's good for you overall as well, because I think actually cooking and getting in there and making it makes you enjoy
Mm,
it more mentally. I think it helps you
yeah.
as well. And it's an activity you can look forward to and helps you to be more positive overall about it. So I think it has a lot of benefits. But like you say, it's kind of getting people to change that mindset to look at it that way.
Yeah, I see it as a real form of self-care.
Mm,
Like when you're preparing your food, just before I jumped on here, I did my dinner. I literally did some cod in the air fryer. I had, because I always like to sort of, double up on things. I had some frozen marinade sauce that I'd had in the freezer last time I made something up. Just used that, chopped up a salad with it, like less than 15 minutes, and it was just done. Easy, minimal washing up because I did the parchment in the air fryer.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. It's not that hard. It's getting people to it's helping them with it, isn't it? I mean, and that's a lot of the job of a coach is just guiding
Mm.
people on, and helping them learn how to do these things, and then they're self-sufficient and stuff becomes easy for them.
Yeah, and I think that's where the empowerment side of things really comes in because, it's great when you work with somebody, they can be there to be accountable to, and handhold to a certain extent, but I want my clients not to need me
Yeah.
by the end of it. I'm always there for check-ins after, but I think, yeah, if you can build upon that knowledge, and I think it's all a kind of snowball effect, and I'm
Yeah.
sure you found this as you started learning, you wanted to find out more and more. And I think, yeah, if you start cooking a few meals for yourself, then you get interested and you want to try out more and more things. So I think, sometimes a little bit of time and patience can really pay off in giving you that sort of independence so that you can, yeah, so that you can keep up what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. And
Key.
empowering is the correct word. Like you said, I think I say to people, I don't do anything to make you better. You make yourself better.
Yeah.
We can guide you and give you advice, but you make yourself better and healthier by the things you do. So it is giving them that power. Because I think that really when the mainstream stuff that we're fed from, whether it's medical stuff or nutritional, people kind of feel like they don't have any power. They're just going through life
Yeah.
and they get what they get. So it's good to give that back.
Yeah. And I think, it's that double-edged sword, I think, of social media and what we're exposed to on the internet. There's a lot of good information out there. There's obviously a lot of nonsense information, and there's a lot of scaremongering. And that's one thing that really pisses me off in this industry. Um, I get that we're all encouraged, whatever marketing gurus or, courses we do, like, attention grabbing,
Yeah.
headlines or captions or whatever. But I'm really, really wary to do that because I think there's also a lot of anxiety around food. And I get this when I speak to people initially. They're like, I just don't know what to eat. And there's a lot of anxiety. And let's face it, most of us are going through life with some level of anxiety, you know, um, from work, life, whatever. And I just don't think that food should be one of those things. So I think if you're going to warn people about something, give them something that's in their control. So it's like, for example, salmon. I'm like, go if you're going for salmon, go for wild salmon because it's going to have a lot less toxins than your farmed varieties. If you can't afford that, no problem. Go for another oily fish. Mackerel, sardines, dirt cheap in comparison. But it's just giving people information and choices that are going to terrify them and leave them feeling powerless. So yeah, that's one thing that really just grinds my gears.
Yeah, you're right. And like you say, it's if you can give them an option, if you say don't eat this, but you could replace it with this, rather than
Yeah,
just don't eat this and that's it. And then they're like, okay, well, what's next? And
yeah.
you're right with it. Anxiety is a big thing around food, and they say people are confused. And
Mm,
obviously, one of those things is with the calorie. I know you said with calorie counting, you were, you were kind of really big on that for a while, and that
mm.
probably affects you a bit. What give us a little bit of background on that and how you kind of got
Yeah,
over that because that's something people struggle with a lot, I think.
yeah, that so yeah, I would oh God, as a teenager, like give myself these ridiculous calorie allowances each day, which were just totally unrealistic. And then I kind of stepped away from that, but I was still doing the low fat thing. And it was actually when I went to university, one of my flatmates, she kind of just really got me more into healthy eating. And yeah, and then I left university, went into my sales job, was unhealthy. And then I just, like I said, discovered this new way of just really focusing on what the nutrients could do with your body, do for your body. And that one, got me learning. But I'd moved away from that calorie counting. I think at the time, yeah, at the time I'd actually qualified. I'd got my nutrition degree. And then with the martial arts, I competed a few times, and I had to weigh in. Now, for two of those, I had to weigh in and like at a lower weight, which is kind of the norm. Um, but I really, really struggled with that because at the time I was happy with how my body was, because that had always been my driver. I want to get skinny so that I can like look a certain way. And I'd gone past wanting to be skinny. I just wanted to sort of be slim. And knowing that I had to hit a target weight was just awful. So I had to kind of, because I had a limited amount of time to do that, and I had to be a certain number, I did go down the calorie route, sort of alternate day, sort of calorie restriction, very different to how I might intermittent fast now. But, I hit the weight, but it really, really messed me up afterwards. It took me a long time, like as in months, to get back to eating normally. It took me back to like a binge cycle, and I hadn't been down that road. I mean, I had what I would say was disordered eating rather than an actual eating disorder, because in my teens, because I gave myself these stupid calorie restrictions, I would break them. And then it was like, right, sod it, it's a binge day. And so rather than just like carrying on and eating normally, it would be a massive binge. And that's how I kind of came out of the other side of those competitions where I had to weigh in like, I don't know, 4 or 5 kilos lighter than I was. Um, and no one was forcing me to do it. I wanted to do it. I have to say, it wasn't like, the coaches weren't like, you have to go in. And it was just like, I want to do this. Yeah, yeah, I can do that. Because it is quite sort of accepted in that environment, and it's mainly guys in that environment. And guys lose weight differently to women, and a lot of you can lose a lot of water weight and weigh in and be fine, whereas it doesn't always work like that for women. We got these damn hormones that mess things up, in a different levels to yours. So yeah, that was just, it was an eye-opener. It was horrible, but it was an eye-opener. Like a reminder that actually there's a lot of people out there that are still experiencing this kind of level of restriction and getting messed up from it. So yeah, I won't be doing that again. But yeah, it was an experience.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine there's tons of crazy cut-in stories from, within boxing or MMA or other things. There's crazy things they
Yeah.
do
I mean,
to
I had
cut
like
weight.
same day weigh-ins, but I struggled.
Mm.
Everyone would have thought, oh, nutritional therapist, it'd be easy for you. But actually, no, it wasn't, because I didn't want to be. That's not a weight I would choose to be. And it was just like it was not designed to be a sustainable weight. It was designed to be an on the day, like, we'll put on kilos as soon as I drink this coconut water or whatever. So yeah, I was in the sauna at like 10 o'clock at night, the night before, cooling
Yeah,
off by going for a swim rather than drinking, like, just horrible,
yeah,
stupid stuff. Like,
yeah,
I knew better than to rely on the water weight stuff, but yeah.
yeah.
Nowadays, struggling with health issues has become so common that we've started to accept it as an inevitable part of aging. 95% of the world's population today suffer with some kind of health issue, and over a third of all people have 5 or more health conditions. Now, despite the prevalence, this is not normal. The majority of the main culprits, like diabetes, hypertension, cancer, heart disease, autoimmune and bowel conditions, they were pretty much unheard of just 100 years ago. Now, with all the technology and medical advances we've made, shouldn't our health be getting better, not worse? 100 years ago, we didn't have the medications we have access to now, yet health was much better. How can this be? The answer is that these are all lifestyle and metabolic conditions. They're caused by our diet, environment, medications, and how we're living our lives. Yes, it all sounds pretty bleak, but there is some good news. These conditions are all reversible. By changing the very things that cause them, we can reverse these health conditions and get back to being healthy. Now, to achieve this, we use a natural, holistic approach to optimize every area of your life, from your diet, your sleep, exercise, environment, and more. By doing this, we avoid the need for any medications that always come with harmful side effects. In fact, medical negligence is the third highest cause of death worldwide, and a lot of the current health epidemic is conditions that are caused by the very medicines that are supposed to be helping. There's a steady pattern of the more medications you take, the sicker you get, and all they do is cover up the symptoms but never deal with the actual cause. We like to concentrate on root cause healing, getting to the bottom of what's causing your health issues and rectifying that first. Now, if you spent years in the medical system, your health steadily declining, getting frustrated, and on more and more medications, maybe it's time for a change. Why not try a different approach and see what we can do for you? The majority of medications you'll put on are for life, and you just have to accept it. You do not need us for life. Our approach is one of education. We teach you how to take control of your health on your own, so you never need to rely on any other person or medication again. The long-term solution is not us, it's you. For more information, visit our website, healthwealthuk.com, where you can book a free discovery call with an expert health coach. And let's get optimal together.
Yeah. I don't like to use calories at all, because I think there's two big dangers with calories. One is that calorie restriction is not sustainable. You
No.
can't keep it up. And the second danger is that when people are obsessed with calories, they're not thinking about nutrition. When you talked, you mentioned about the nutrients. You weren't thinking about nutrients. And if people are obsessed
No.
with calories, our body, yes, our body needs energy to run, but any food will give our body energy. We need to concentrate
Yeah.
on the nutrients, don't we?
Yeah. I think, yes, if you eat too much, you will gain weight. But yeah, it's just such a narrow way of thinking that just it doesn't even cover the full picture.
Mm.
So, a lot of our calorie extraction from foods depends on what's going on in our gut. If our gut microbiome is all messed up, then that's going to impact it. Um, our level of sleep is going to impact our hunger hormones and satiety hormones. And, I think quite often this calories in, calories out sort of assumes that your body is devoid of emotions and it's like this, we're not an input output machine. So, if you've not slept well, you've not had good sleep for a couple of nights. I don't know about, I feel like I'm a bottomless pit if I've had, like,
Yeah.
there was nothing that quenches that hunger. And yeah, you know, hormones, stress hormones, insulin, you know, all of this impacts our body's ability to store and burn fat. So yeah, it's just, I think it's, yes, it is part of the picture, but there's so much that impacts that model of how calories are extracted and burnt off. And like you say, it doesn't take into account what's actually going on nutrient wise, because you know, we need cofactors for using energy efficiently. And if we're eating a diet that's stripped of all those sort of, you know, vitamins and minerals from food, if it's overly processed, then you know that does impact what our body's doing with that energy. So yeah, it's just one of those things that when I hear people talking about calories, you know, just like randomly in like the supermarket or on the street, after like deep breaths. Don't go and insert yourself into the conversation.
Don't argue
Don't
with them.
shout across the room.
It has become just such a common thing, hasn't it? It's just everyone knows calories and everyone will talk. So even when, although I don't like to use calories, when I talk to people, at some point I will measure stuff in calories because that's just what people understand, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even though
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, don't measure everything by calories, but still, like, how much of this shall I eat? Well, this many calories. It's like,
Mm.
it's just become part of it.
Yeah. I did some temping work during lockdown, because obviously so many of us couldn't do anything. And so I went back to the NHS and was working in an office, and there was a lady sort of across the office, and I heard her saying, oh, well, I like this soup, holding up one of these sort of awful powdered packets, but this one's got less calories. And I was just like, you know, obviously my ears pricked up, and I later went to have a look at them, and I mean, it was 10 calories difference between them. One was like 47, the other 57. And I'm looking at it, and the ingredients just so much crap, like just all this stuff. I'm just thinking, this can't taste good.
Mm.
But you're going for this one because it's like 10 calories. I was just like, God, that just makes me really sad,
I know.
because you've kind of been sucked in, not sucked in, because that almost makes it seem like, you know, they're silly, but you know, when people are still trapped in that calorie mindset, it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It is. And it's, you know, even there probably wasn't even 10 calories of difference in those packets, because the other thing is that it's wildly inaccurate. You know,
Yeah,
the amount of calories on it, plus we have no idea how many calories our bodies are using. That will change day to day.
exactly,
Like you
because that's
said,
all, and it's different from person to person.
yeah, exactly. Like you said, poor night's sleep, you're going to have a different metabolic rate the next day
Yeah,
than you would have the day after. So it's impossible to actually accurately track it, which is
yeah,
why, as you said, it's part of it. You eat more of the, if you're eating a certain food and you eat more of the same food and you're not using up any more energy. Yeah, you might
mm.
put weight on, but it's not just as easy as in and out. Like you said, I always hear people say about, oh, the first law of thermodynamics and all this, when there's all about calories, it's like, well, the law of thermodynamics applies to a closed system, which we are
Yeah,
not a closed system.
no,
It doesn't
no,
really apply to us. And then, as you said, our hormones have a huge effect on things like that as well. And it's
mm.
just not as simple as that. So yeah, I like to just stick with looking at the nutrition of food. Let's give your body what it needs.
Yeah,
And then if we're giving it the base of what it needs, we can easily increase or decrease the amounts based on
yeah.
how your body's responding. And that's a healthier way to do it, I think.
Yeah, I just love that approach, and I think it really does give people so much more control, and that sense of actually loving their body
Mm,
when they think about nourishing it. And you know, even though I start with clients like at whatever starting point is appropriate for them, one of the things that I always like to do, and one of the reasons why I wanted to work holistically, is that actually for so many people, once they start to discover what their body's capable of physically, that really also encourages that need and want to nourish themselves and look after that. Because I think it's really difficult to start loving yourself if you're just focusing on what you look like. And so I just think that a really big piece of that nourishment puzzle is actually find out what your body can do, find out what it's capable of, and then you just something kind of clicks and you just want to actually look after it more, even in a subconscious way. It's difficult for me to describe, but I just see it so often. And I know it in myself when I get injured, and I've had so many injuries over the last year. It really impacts how I nourish myself. And of course, that's the time when you want to be, eating extra well, almost, so that your body can repair. But when I'm not moving up and about, it impacts how I eat. So I just think everything is so linked that way. But it's like the kind of almost like the hidden part of nourishment, just to actually give that impetus of movement, see what you can do.
Yeah, I agree. I think movement's a big part of it. And movement, like you said earlier, in fact, I was going to touch on, you said earlier about you got into your martial arts, and that was your movement. Like people associate
Yeah.
exercise with you've got to go to the gym and you've got to do this and that, but movement is very different to just killing yourself in the gym, and it's finding what
Yeah.
works for you, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think we all go through just different phases of life. I used to love the gym, um in my early 20s. I loved being at the gym. It was like my place. But then, yeah, doing martial arts, I love that. And the idea of going into a gym, like, yeah, obviously you can do that to support yourself, but it would just seemed boring. And I do think we need lots of different aspects of movement. But I just think it's so important to find something that you love. And, with my shoulder injury, because I injured it again, I've actually got grade 4 osteoarthritis in my right shoulder, which at the time the consultant said was like the youngest person that he'd seen with it. So yeah, did feel quite special. um, and so he sort of said, well, unless you want a replacement for your shoulder in 20 years, maybe change. So I was like, okay, I'll change to something different. Started trail running, love that, because I used to find running boring, but actually going out in the middle of Box Hill, like doing the hike trail, it's just beautiful. That was lovely. But then I kind of needed something else. So I started, I hit 40 and then thought, "Oh, this is my fuck it 40s. I'm like just doing stuff that I want to do." So I took up pole dancing, I took up pole fitness, which I'd always wanted to do, and climbing as well. And they actually complement each other really well. Weirdly enough, they're both sort of, quite shoulder heavy, but it's not unpredictable movement like in martial arts. But I found things that I loved again, and they, especially the climbing, that turned out to be incredibly social, which I never thought it would be. So I kind of got that aspect back from it, and I've made some really good friends climbing. And then pole, like that just kind of appeals to the kid in me. It's like, wow, look what I can do. And I did the equivalent of sending WhatsApp to my mum's instead of, the mum putting a picture that the kid drew up on the fridge. It's like she gets WhatsApp, mum, look what I can do. So that appeals to me. And I think we've all got things that appeal to us that different physical activities can give, whether that's dancing, whether it's going to join a local five-a-side. Just, I think you need to find what you enjoy physically, but find the missing aspects, like Brazilian jiu-jitsu. That's great problem solving. Same thing with climbing. If you do like to showboat or whatever, then yeah, you're dancing, your pole, then I think we need to look at things not just from the physical perspective, but also from the mental perspective, because I think the physical might get you going. So, wanting to get stronger, wanting to get more mobile, that can get you going. But if you ask anybody who's like a real regular at whatever sport they do, why, they'll tell you they'll go insane if they don't. Like, there's just that, it gives you so much mental benefits, that I think you've got to look at those. You've got to look at all the benefits if it's going to be something that you keep up. And yeah, I think, you've got to find something that you love. And then you can do other stuff to support that, rather than thinking, I'm going to go down the gym because I need to build muscle because I'm a woman over 40 and I know that my rate of muscle is declining and it's going to support my, it's going to get me strong so I can do better things in poles so that I can like climb more. I think if you kind of just find your thing and then find things to support it, because I think, you know, we all need strength training, we all need some kind of mobility and flexibility stuff. So yoga's great for that. You know, I think we do need to get a well-rounded approach, but I think, yeah, being in a gym is not going to appeal to everybody, and for some people it's really intimidating, and I get it. Even
Yeah.
after I trained as a PT, I would still feel intimidated sometimes going in the gym.
Yeah, you're right. And it comes back again to that holistic perspective, doesn't it? Because you said there about even with the movement and you getting the mental benefits. And then you mentioned the community as well. That's another big thing,
Yeah.
that the social aspect, that's another big thing for health is community and social aspect.
Yes. Yeah, connection is one of the key things for health, and that's been so underappreciated. And again, I think it's one of the things that people experienced during lockdown that really probably surprised a lot of people. But I think, yeah, you know, doing these things can be a great way to make connection. And I always say, like, I'm big into my climbing. Climbing is brilliant if you're quite a shy person, and you're wanting to make friends, because there's always a reason to talk to somebody. You're not having to put yourself out there, go and introduce yourself. You're literally there and you're working out a boulder route, and someone will say to you, have you tried this? You know, or you say, what are your tips for this? And it just lends itself to getting to know people. So yeah, I think there's so many benefits to doing these different activities. I think, yeah, you can't just be stuck in the gym,
Yeah.
even if that's your thing.
Yeah, and like you say, for someone who loves the gym and they're fine with that, that's brilliant. Go with it. But it's finding people where they are, like you said. You know,
Yeah.
I have a client who's an older lady, and she goes for a brisk walk pretty much every day, and that's her exercise, and that suits her perfect. You know, and it's meeting where if you struggle to climb the stairs, you're not going to be going to the gym. You're going to be, you know, doing basic stuff.
Yeah.
Go for a brisk walk or something,
Yeah.
and got to start from where you are, like you said already.
Yeah, I just think that there's so much out there, and there's so much that's accessible to us now. You know, you can find groups. I have a friend who does Nordic walking groups. So it's like, you know, and that would be perfectly suited to somebody who wants to sort of, you know, make friends, see all the scenery and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's out there for people. And again, it's that benefit of having someone like a coach or someone who just give you advice and can point you in the direction of these things. I wanted to also just quickly touch on something else. I know you said about at one point you were drinking a decent amount when you were younger. I know alcohol is a big thing with lots of people.
Yeah.
How did you find that affect your health? And did you have to make changes there, and what's your kind of
Yeah.
view on
I'm
alcohol
just
overall?
smiling because you said a decent amount. Like, yeah, it was a decent amount. I've never heard it described like that, but that's really made me smile. It's like, oh, it's a sense of pride in that. Yeah, so that is a big thing, and that's been one of the biggest changes that I've made. You know, like I said, I wasn't always healthy. I actually used to be quite a heavy smoker up till it was literally the second day of my nutritional therapy degree when I went in there that I gave up. The second time I went in, I gave up smoking because I was like properly addicted to that. Giving up drinking is probably the thing I'm proudest of after the smoking, because smoking isn't socially acceptable. Drinking is not only socially acceptable, it's socially encouraged. And my God, if you're a woman over 35, it is just rammed down your throat. Like oh God. Talking about, I just sound like this really grumpy old lady, like loads of things just irritate me. I am a positive person. But yeah, the whole like wine o'clock and it's prosecco. Ooh. I just, even when I was drinking, I hated that. I felt like I was being patronized. I was really against that kind of marketing to women, because, you know, I was in that gray area, that big gray area. I did not need a drink every day. I did not need it as an eye opener in the morning. but I struggle to moderate. So I live on my own. I don't have like a big social life. Most of my social life is around activities. So I can easily drink on my own. And so I wouldn't drink during the week. I was actually really good in lockdown. I had like a really good control over it. But yeah, so Friday, Saturday, Sundays, occasional Thursday night, I would drink, but my tolerance just really, really built up. And so I've never been the kind of person, milk chocolate will be my downfall. Never a sort of half a bar of milk chocolate back in the fridge and expect that to stay overnight. Same thing with a bottle of wine. So it's just very easy for me to drink a bottle of wine and not really feel any different the next day. And then that kind of crept up. And, there'll be like a Saturday night where I could have, over the course of like sort of late afternoon, I could have 2 bottles and not feel horrific the next day. I was like, this isn't good. So I was very aware that I was drinking too much and felt really crappy about it. Hated waking up on a Sunday, just feeling really shit, thinking, why did I do this again? But it's really difficult. I could kind of moderate it for a bit, but not for long. I'd gone through periods where I could go without alcohol for a month or up to 3 months, but it wouldn't sort of stay. I'd love to say, and then I'd go back, and I kept it. It just didn't happen for long. And so I actually got my eggs frozen. Again, turned 40, thought I don't have kids yet, let's get this done. And while I was going through the process, I said, so obviously I need to cut down on caffeine. What about alcohol? And they said, well, you could have 3 units a week. I was thinking 3 units a week, I wouldn't be able to stick to 3 units a night. I was like, what's the point? So I stopped because of that. And actually, I just felt so good from it. And I just thought, I can't justify going back. And the longer that I've done it, so I haven't drunk for almost 2.5 years now.
Wow.
And I just can't justify going back to it. Like, I feel so good when I wake up, especially at the weekends. I don't have that wasted day. If I'm spending Sunday morning in bed, it's because I want to.
Yeah.
It's not because I have to. I don't have to wake up and hide under the duvet whilst, thinking about what I might have done, the night before. And so, yeah, it just became one of those things that I just felt so good. And I realized that when I was drinking to try to manage my emotions. Like, I'm a very emotional person. I wear my heart on my sleeve. And because those emotions are just there, they can feel intense. So if I was really excited or happy, I'd have a drink. Really pissed off, have a drink. Really sad, have a drink. Really low, have a drink. I still get bouts of depression. It's the worst thing for it, but it's what you turn to when you're feeling down. And so that was quite a difficult thing. But actually, like, it's okay. I just sit with the emotions rather than trying to hide them. I recognize them and deal with them. And it's not this thing that I need to try and avoid anymore. And it's been a real eye-opener in a lot of ways. So I know for a lot of people, it's a social lubricant. You go out, you want to have a couple of drinks, you'd even have drinks at home while you're getting ready to go out. And I remember doing that in my early 20s, and my mum came in the room and she's like, you're the only person I know who has a drink to get ready for going out for a drink. I was like, well, that's what we do. But actually, the lubricant is time. Like, you think it's the alcohol that gets you sort of relaxed enough, but actually we all thaw out over time to then be able to sort of relax a little bit more socially. So yeah, I think, if anybody is curious, I think just do it for a month or so. It doesn't have to be. I think dry January is quite harsh because, January is a tough month anyway. I get it because it's straight after Christmas, but dry January, is like more two depressing sounding words put together ever. like that just sounds like the equivalent of diet, like deprive yourself.
Mm.
But yeah, it's definitely one of the most empowering things that I've done. And I never say never. I don't know if I will drink. For now, I can't justify it because every reason I've been through, I've not had a drink. So I know that I don't need one. But it's weird, and I still have dreams sometimes where I've got drunk. And in my dream, I'm so pissed off with myself and just feel so frustrated. So, yeah,
Yeah, I think, well done, first of all,
thank you.
for that. And I mean, 2.5 years is a good amount of time as well. Um, I think alcohol does a lot more damage than a lot of people will admit because it's so socially accepted. I remember, so, essentially, I would, binge drink on the weekend when I was out, when I was younger. And I was only maybe 21, 22, and
Mm,
I just decided I didn't want to be drunk anymore.
right.
And I didn't really like alcohol. I mean, obviously some people,
Mm,
enjoy it. And so I just stopped. But I remember for the rest of the time, we'd still go out on the weekend with my mates and everything. Every single person that we spoke to, no one could ever understand or comprehend or believe why, oops, nearly knocked something over, why I didn't drink. No one could ever,
yeah.
every time that, what do you mean you don't drink? Like at all? And people, it's another one of those things that just become like so much part of culture and so socially accepted
Yeah.
that people find it weird when you don't.
Yeah, it's
But
it's so weird that you have to justify not
yeah,
drinking. It's
I know.
so strange.
It's yeah, and it's we know it's bad for us, but then we kind of justify it with these reasons, and people try and say, oh, 1 or 2 glasses a week is actually good for you, which I don't think so. I think if someone wants one
No.
or two glasses a week, fine, have 1 or 2 glasses, but I don't think kid yourself that it's
Don't
good
kid
for you.
yourself that
Yeah,
yeah,
I think
exactly. It's like, if you want that resveratrol from red wine, have some blueberries in something that is going to be so much better. I think we have been so lied to. I'm not a big conspiracy person at all, but we have been lied to about the effects of alcohol. And,
yeah,
for especially for women, um, definitely sort of as you're coming into perimenopause, like it's the one thing that could have the biggest impact on your symptoms, your health in general, if you just stop that. Yet that is the market that they are really, really targeting. And I think that's what gets me so frustrated and angry with the whole industry, because actually, the cancer risks, the breast cancer risks are just so high. um and you'll have people, and I know people that will deliberately go out the way to buy the shampoo that doesn't have the parabens in, and all of this stuff, yet be chugging down the prosecco at the weekend. And it's like, well, actually, that probably have more impact than your shampoo. Like, do both, brilliant, but
yeah.
I think sometimes we can shift our priorities, but actually, it just doesn't do us any favors. But it is hard, like you said. You have to justify that, and I think that's amazing that you did that so young. I mean, God, my life would be very different if I'd have actually been sensible in my 20s.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, I just didn't want that feeling of being drunk, and then I didn't really like alcohol. So I did like
Mm,
5, 6 years of nothing, and then I just started to have the odd drink, like just a Koppenberg with my wife,
yeah.
and then I did that for like a year or so, and then again I just whenever I drank it, I just made me feel horrible. Like, not
Does
obviously I
she
wasn't.
drink, or do
She
you?
would just have a glass of wine
Yeah.
now and again, not that much,
Oh, well,
but
that helps if both of you are kind of at the same level with
yeah.
that.
Yeah, but yeah, it just made me feel rubbish again. So then I stopped again. So probably again another 4 or 5 years that I've not drunk anything,
Wow.
and probably don't really plan to. But yeah, I think people are again. You say it's all about money. The alcohol industry is a huge industry,
Yeah.
and so it's they've got it really ingrained into culture, and it's hard to change that, I think.
Especially British
Yeah,
culture. It's
yeah, that's true. We drink a lot. Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty terrifying. But yeah, I just that my problem was that I loved being drunk.
Yeah.
Um, and for me it kind of accelerated that sort of buzz that for some people it's their cue to stop. that like it accelerates for me. So I was never really the person that would throw up from drinking too much. I would just pass out. So yeah, it was just, there wasn't an off switch, you know. If I had
Mm.
that off switch, then yeah, maybe I might still be drinking. I might be able to moderate, but actually, you know, I kind of accept that maybe I am just quite an all or nothing person with that, and maybe I have got an addictive personality. And so yeah, it
Yeah.
works out for me.
It's another thing that people have to take into account. Again, we're talking about holistic and we're talking about personalized. And as you say, some people have that all or nothing, and
Mm,
moderating isn't a good idea. You know, like, you know, you wouldn't say to people say about moderating bad foods, but some people can't. You wouldn't say to an alcoholic, just have one or two drinks, just moderate
yeah.
it, because they can't. And I think it's the same in food, in drink, and across this other stuff. So it's about finding out what works for you, isn't it?
Yeah, because I would generally say like for people have an 80-20 approach to food. 80% of the time you're eating really, really healthy stuff. Give yourself up to 20% leeway if you want to. But I know there's certain foods that I can't moderate. Like if I buy green and black's milk chocolate, that's gone. Like I'm not even going to pretend. But if I want to buy it and I accept that, then that's cool. But I'm just not going to pretend that I'm going to have a few squares and leave it in the
Yeah.
fridge. It's not going to happen.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. That's it. Finding out where you are. Listen, I've taken up a lot of your time. Before you go, I'll just throw a question at you. I mean, a difficult one to come up with off the cuff, but just, you know,
cool.
give me your answer. Just what would be your advice to someone who wants to start, you know, improving themselves and getting out of you? Like, where would you advise them to start from?
So I would, if somebody's wanting to change their health, if they've kind of decided on their health goals, I think the most important thing that you need to do is to find out where you're at and be
Mm,
really, really honest with yourself, because we all have our little story, and not in like any kind of devious way, but we all think we're at a certain point. So I think actually just take a note of where you're at and just find one thing at a time that you can change. So I like to kind of work backwards from things.
yeah,
So if I'm struggling in one area, I kind of think, well, what could help that? Sometimes for me, it's my sleep. So if I'm struggling with training, if I'm struggling to be productive, it comes back to sleep. So see if you can kind of find the common denominator and find like the lowest hanging fruit that you can start with. So maybe if it's sleep, giving yourself a bedtime. If you are struggling on the alcohol front, give yourself one day a week where you don't have anything. If you are struggling with your energy levels, then start to include more protein and fats in your meals. Just find like one thing that you can do and then build on it. I think really, really common, especially in January. It's like that sort of Monday feeling amplified when people want to change everything at once because they feel like they're doing lots. But actually that's bloody exhausting. You lose momentum with that. So just find one thing that you can change, keep building on that. And then once you get to a sort of plateau, don't be afraid to call in some outside help. Get someone to be accountable to. That's just going to sort of take you off that plateau and help level you up.
yeah, brilliant. I think that's great advice. As you say, that one thing at a time. Get those easy wins at first, just
Yeah.
to build on.
And
I
just
think
be
that's brilliant.
honest where you're starting from. You know,
Yeah.
there's zero judgment. If you actually realize that you're actually in a sort of worse off point, brilliant. The only way is up.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Exactly. And before you go, let us know where people can find you online. If they want to look you
sure.
up, if they want to work with you, let us know where they can find you.
Brilliant. So I am on most of the socials. So you'll find me under You by Anthea, Facebook at you.by.anthea, on Instagram. And of course, got the website, which is youubyanthea.co.uk. So yeah, just reach out, message me if you want to chat. I've also got a membership community, which you can check out too.
Awesome. We'll put all the links for that into the show notes as well. But
Amazing.
thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, thank you. I really enjoyed that, Ryan.
Brilliant. Okay. Thank you to Anthea. We will see everyone next week, and let's get optimal together.